What is up, guys? Welcome to my channel, and today I will be doing a walking tour of CF Fairview Mall. This mall is located in Toronto and it comes in 2 levels. I will be walking this way. I am also entering from the corridor of entrance 6. That is right. This corridor I'm walking starts from entrance 6. As you can see that the corridors has different types of shops on the left and right. I'll be walking down this way. I'll be walking along this corridor. This is a pretty decent sized mall. This mall has like numerous different retailers, like different types of shops. It is a mall that also has a pretty decent AC. So if it's a hot day and you're looking for a place to chill, but also like as a place to cool down, this will be a pretty good mall to go to. I will start off by turning this way. I'm gonna walk down along this corridor of the mall. As you can see, I started from the 2nd floor of the mall. It is a 2-level mall. However, this mall does have some quite decent retailers. There's some big retailers and a bit of small ones, so it is a mix. It is one of the malls that has like both regular retailers and anchor tenants, anchor retailers, such as department stores. So that means I am going to continue walking down this corridor just to show what the mall looks like, especially the interior of the mall. This mall does have some pretty good retailers, as you can see. Over here is also another corridor of the mall. The mall comes with like many entrances. As you can see, this is another like entrance or exit to the mall. I mean like from the mall. It is good to see a decent sized mall have like a decent amount of entrances and exits. So it is pretty accessible to get into the mall. I am coming to the end of this corridor. There's a department store right over there, as you can see. I am now going to turn this way. Over here, there's also another like anchor tenant though, also known as Sport Check. If I could remember, I think the Sport Check used to be where the Cineplex was. Like the same area that I was walking in from, I think it used to be a Sport Check, like beside the Cineplex. But now where that Sport Check is got moved to here, because that old location is now replaced with the Palladium, which is right beside the Cineplex. The walking corridors in this mall is pretty decently wide. Not as wide, but some areas are pretty spacious, especially where there are seating areas. Especially where there's like areas where there's a lot of seats to sit down though, like those are the more spacious areas. I would say this area of the mall is pretty spacious, right here. A lot of the malls are designed in the way that the first floor tends to have more walking space than the 2nd floor, which makes sense. Especially if the mall is designed with like railings though. Or like wide spaces where people can look down, you know, look down on the first floor of the mall. I am now heading to the other side of the mall. Just to let you know that this mall is not a very big mall, so the mall is mostly linear. And what I mean by linear is the fact that the mall is more of a rectangle. So it's not one of those malls that curves around a lot or goes in a square or goes in a loop. It's more of a mall where you either walk from one end to the other end. And it's not connected in a loop though, so it has like different sides to it instead. So it's a mall where like you walk from one end to the other. As you can see right over here on my right, there is a big Apple store. It looks very fancy since the Apple store has those like very wide windows, like wide glass doors. Like obviously when you go to like different malls, the Apple stores varies because certain Apple stores, they're more like the basic size ones, they're not that big. But the Apple store in certain malls like this mall, they tend to look fancier. Which is pretty ironic because this is not like a very high-end mall. This is more of a mid-tier mall, you know? It is not as high-end as Yorkdale or Eaton Center, and however the Apple store is still pretty fancy. Well, although I said that the mall was like kind of linear though, but however, there is a bit of like corridors that split out from the main rectangle, but the corridors don't go that far. And most of the mall is still like within the rectangle, so that's the reason why I consider this mall to be linear. I'm going to walk this way, then I'm going to make a loop around. I think what used to be behind these walls though that are now closed off was Sears or Hudson's Bay. Actually, it was a Hudson's Bay. As you note that Hudson's Bay used to be an anchor tenant of many of the CF malls. But now that Hudson's Bay has closed down, it means that wherever the Hudson's Bays were located though, I think that like a lot of the mall landlords are looking for new retailers to replace those like former Hudson Bay spaces, you know? And because Hudson's Bays can take up like a lot of space. So that means the landlord is either looking for other major retailers or they're looking to like divide those like former spaces into like smaller retailers, multiple like retail units. It is more rare nowadays to see like department stores that are so big as Hudson's Bay. And there are people that would rather shop in like smaller stores with things that cater to the needs though than having to browse a big department store. So that means I'm going to walk back to the center of the mall and then I'm going to be heading downstairs and I'll be taking a tour of the first floor of the mall. Just to show you that this mall is decent size, but it's not a very big mall. So that means I'll be heading down those stairs right over there. There's some stairs that lead down.
Move her a little bit down.
This mall does come with a fair amount of benches and seating areas. It is good that every mall has benches and seating areas because obviously what type of mall doesn't have seating areas? Like that would be very strange, right? Benches and seats are one of the most basic amenities that every mall should have, especially indoor malls, enclosed malls, you know? If it's an outdoor mall or a plaza, I can understand if it lacks seating areas, but an indoor mall should have at least some seating areas. Very normal for a mall to have. I'm now walking downstairs. It is more spacious down here. There is more walking space on the first floor of the mall. The mall also comes with a lot of directories, like digital maps. Those are good though because it makes it easier for people to like find the stores that they need to shop at. There's some more major retailers on my left and right, as you can see. So that means I'm going to keep walking this way. I also think that this is one of Toronto's like first mall that comes with 2 floors, or what do I call it though? Like Toronto's first multi-level mall. Because this mall seems like a very old type of layout. The layout of the mall like seems a bit old-fashioned. Even if the interior looks modern though, however, I think this is one of the oldest malls. Because I'm pretty sure if there were any new modern malls, like modern indoor malls that were to be built though, it wouldn't be as linear. Like the malls would be like, they would have a nicer interior. Like the corridors would like curve in different directions. It wouldn't just be a straight rectangle. But this mall has like the most like basic layout that I've ever seen. So I could say that people would classify this mall as a standard mall. As you walk to this section of the mall, you will notice that like there's a major retailer right over there, also known as TNT Supermarket. Not only that, but this corridor is interesting. This corridor also has like seating areas, I think. As you walk towards this corridor, it leads out to another exit or entrance. You can see there's another entrance here. And if I walk down that way though, there's also a connection to the subway station. So this mall, I would say, is pretty transit accessible. So if people are coming here by the subway though, it is accessible. If you exit from this exit right ahead, it leads to the Don Mills subway station. It is very nice to see how this space got renovated. Like I'm talking about like this part of the mall getting renovated. Here's another exit or entrance to the mall. Because this corridor of the mall that I'm walking in, it used to be where Sears was. Well, obviously Sears closed down a while ago, but before, like, I think that this corridor did not exist though. So I think that the furthest you could walk in this part of the mall is that like you could walk all the way to where Sears was. So this part I'm standing on used to be Sears, including the upper floor as well. It is just interesting to come back to this mall and notice like how much of the mall has changed. This mall has changed dramatically, despite the fact that it is an old mall. So I'm going to continue walking this corridor. I'm going to walk straight to the other side of the mall, but while staying on the first floor. I would say that even if this mall isn't so big though, but it is a pretty decent mall for people like living in this neighborhood. So I would say that people that live in this part of Toronto, it is a pretty fair sized mall for them, you know? Because this mall provides like all the basic things that people can shop for though, like all the common things. It is not very high end, but it's also not very low tier. So I would say that whether some people think this mall is big or not though, it is pretty fair size. Especially for the surrounding community around it, you know? Well then again, any mall that is not in downtown though, like, it cannot be that big. Unless a mall is in downtown though, in Toronto it is pretty rare to go to a mall that's like multiple levels or more than like 2 floors. So I would say that 2 floors is pretty standard for a mall. I would say if you go to any malls and there are malls that are like 3 floors, 4 floors, 5 floors, or anything above that though, you are somewhere in downtown or close to downtown. Otherwise, it is rare to go to a mall that is like has so many floors, you know. I think over here on this space, it used to be Aroma Espresso or some kind of coffee shop because it is just spacious. I think that this space could be occupied by some kind of retailer or like a food place, you know. But there's nothing there. I think there used to be a coffee shop or something that used to occupy that space. So as you walk further down this corridor though, to the end of this corridor, you will see a food court. This mall does have a food court because why not? Most malls that are decent size comes with a food court, another very basic amenity. Well then again, I've been to malls that were multiple floors though, but definitely not this mall. I've been to malls that had at least like 5 floors or over that. I do admit that like exploring malls that have multiple floors, it's a more like exciting experience versus a mall that's built on like a single level, you know. So this over here is the food court. There are numerous options that like people can eat at, you know. This is the food court of Fairview Mall. They have some pretty good options, as you can see. As you can see, there's also a Pico right over there. Just to let you know that if you never tried Pico, I think the pizza in Pico, it tastes very good. I definitely think that Pico pizza is a slightly higher quality compared to the more common pizza chains. Like compared to places like Pizza Hut, Domino's Pizza, Pizza, I would say that like give Pico a try if you really like pizza. This is another like quarter of the mall, and it leads to another entrance, I believe. Let's have a look. Okay, it does lead to another entrance. This area that's walled up, again, it used to be a Hudson's Bay, but now there's nothing there. We don't know what kind of exciting retailer is going to open, but we will see in the future. We'll see what is actually going to occupy this space right over here. It is always exciting to see what kind of retailers like open in the mall, especially retailers that would replace like the space occupied by former retailers. There is another thing I realized that is interesting about the mall layout, right? So this mall does not have that many escalators, even though it's decent size. It's not like one of those malls where every section, every major part of the mall you walk to, there are escalators. So although this mall is built in a linear layout, if you wanted to like take the escalators between like the floors, you would have to go to one side of the mall or the other side. So basically you would either have to be at the side of the mall where TNT Supermarket is, or be at the food court side. Because in the middle of the mall, there are no escalators. It is just stairs. Which is this might be another reason why people can tell that this is the older mall. Because I'm sure that more modern malls though would be more accessible. It is just one of the weird layouts though, where like the escalators are not everywhere in the mall. You have to go from like either one side or the other side. Because compared to other malls like Markville Mall, Markville Mall that I've also been to, there are escalators in every like major section of the mall. Just not this mall though. There's a lot of space right here, as you can see. A lot of walking space. This mall is pretty good exercise too. If you wanted to like catch your steps though, like do some walking, walk in the AC, this mall is a pretty good place to walk, I would say. It is a nice mall overall. It connects pretty well to the transit, especially to the subway station. This mall has a variety of shops that people can shop at. So I would like to say thank you guys for watching my video. Please subscribe to my channel. And I hope you enjoyed the tour of the mall.